So good morning again. It's brilliant to have you back. Thank you for being with us, and thank you also for following the instructions as you have found the way. I would now like to see whether Diony could join me. Diony, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hi, Diony. Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone.
So you know Dionisio, Dionisio is the coordinator, and we are going to moderate this session together, right? So
Try to turn on the camera, but I don't know why.
yes, please, that would be fantastic.
Looks like now it should be working. I think so.
Um, yeah. Here you are. So I'm slow on purpose in order to give our audience the time needed to join us. So welcome to this Webstival. This Webstival is second Webstival of the Transcend project that we are going um, to uh, to use in order to reconnect also the stakeholder panels in different pilot basins in order to inform you about what we have been doing um, most recently and also prepare you for what will happen next. So there are interesting insights. So for the opening, we would like to we have prepared a couple of ideas about informing you about the outcomes of the international workshops that we organized in Venice in May this year. And some of you have joined us, some of you could not. We have missed you. So we have a nice environment for discussion, and we have produced a lot of interesting stuff. And we will shortly recap and reconnect also the Madalena's talk to what we have been doing. Dionysio, would you like to go through the slides, or shall I, or how do you prefer to go ahead?
No, I can. I mean, whatever you prefer, Jerry. If you want, I can take over for a few minutes so that you can rest after
Yeah, please. Thank you.
leading the first part, and then
Yeah,
yeah, we can yeah.
yeah, brilliant. Excellent. So if you would like to share the slides,
I will try to because it's.
otherwise I can do that, right? And you tell me when you would like to. Shall I
Please,
share?
if you can, I think that would be better, Jaro,
Yeah,
because I'm trying to open the document you shared, but for some reason it closed.
no problem, no problem. I am going to do that, right? So I will share the screen in a second, and yeah. You should see the screen in full presentation mode. So this is basically part of the common ground that we have prepared as the outcome of the workshop. So I move to the first slide and over to you, Diony.
Thank you. So, I mean, thank you all for being here. Some of you were in the Venice International workshop, so you are aware of what happened there, what was the scope, why we met there. But I mean, there are many people here who didn't have the chance to participate for different reasons. So I think it's good to recap. And I think it's also useful for those of you who were there to recap the main findings and some of the key conclusions that we have come across after assessing all the information, the valuable information that was generated thanks to all of you, the stakeholders who participated there, and the scientists who supported the organization of the event. So, I mean, as you summarize here very neatly, so the workshop was meant to yield insights into cross-cutting and shared challenges and opportunities, with a focus on the first part, challenges, because, well, we were first trying to understand what are the barriers we are facing in order to start identifying what opportunities we can exploit. Right now, we are moving slowly into the second phase, that of the opportunities, trying to identify promising interventions to address the challenges that were highlighted in the Venice International Workshop. The idea is to integrate all this assessment into the co-creation process that is taking place right now across the 7 living labs of Transcend. As you know, we have had already 2 workshops in the 7 living labs, so 2 in each of the labs. And we have ahead other 2 workshops in which we would like to focus on addressing the key challenges that we have been identifying. So yeah, the international workshop was the first, actually it was the second occasion to meet in order to build mutual learning, understanding of key problems, and try to identify collectively solutions. There will be another second Transcend international workshop in January in Valencia. But there was also a first sort of international workshop collectively arranged with some other projects that are partnering us in this quest, which was organized in Lisbon, but just a few of you could attend. And there will be another one follow-up for that. So in total, we're going to have 4 international workshops, but only 2 of them are, we can call them Transcend international workshops. The other 2 are in partnership with other projects. So next, Jaro, please. So yeah, we identified a number of challenges. Some of them already had been identified. And I mean, this one, for example, was identified in the proposal, and that's the title of the project. So in the proposal phase, we already identified uncertainty was going to be a key challenge that we were going to face. But I mean, it emerged during the international workshop as a major obstacle towards advancing in transformational adaptation. So yeah, we know that we many times have to face uncertainty in the data that we are using, uncertainty in the capacity of institutions to process this data and interpret it, uncertainty in the models that we are using, the basic design, how they are structured, and uncertainty in the scenarios that we are employing. So there are lots of uncertainties that we have to deal with, and that leads to often to disagreement among the experts, the decision makers who have to decide eventually how we move forward and whether we take a path of transformation adaptation or business as usual. And this uncertainty typically works against the transformation, right? Because people are risk averse and they are feeling more comfortable with whatever they are doing right now. So a few opportunities that were identified are highlighted here. Test how uncertainty is represented and communicated in the decision support systems. Demonstrate ways to integrate climate and socioeconomic scenarios with local monitoring data. Co-design simple visualizations and decision pathways with local authorities, and develop comprehensive storylines of risk and solutions. All these should be already familiar to you because this is what we are, right now doing in the different living labs. And the focus of the next Scenathon, which is going to take place from October to December in the different living labs, is going to be on this, on uncertainty. So we are going to play a serious game that focuses exclusively on that. Then something that we have been, we already knew, we were aware of it, but we didn't give probably the right importance and relevance while we were working on the proposal preparation for Transcend, and therefore it's not a major aspect we are dealing with actively, but we have to acknowledge it and start dealing with it, is the strength beliefs. I mean, there are deep-root beliefs and polarized narratives, for example, around water demand or in climate impacts, that can block reforms. And more importantly, sometimes increasingly, we are facing misinformation, also in the water sector. I mean, we are aware of misinformation on climate. There are climate denial, and there's a lot of conflicts around misinformation that we have to address, we have to face, and that we have to recognize. Thus far, in Transcend, we have not been very active tackling this, but this is going to change. We plan to use the serious games and simulations to shift attitudes and illustrate trade-offs. We're going to apply narratives and storylines to reframe polarized debates. We are going to encourage participatory dialogue that surface beliefs and make them open to discussion. And we are going to test, eventually, if we can, and that's one idea that we are going to discuss in a meeting we have in 2 weeks in Madrid, in Alcalá, in Spain, the consortium partners. We're going to start testing behavioral informed policy tools that encourage more sustainable choices and cooperation. Then another barrier challenge that is emerging clearly has emerged clearly from the international workshop, but not only, also as a result of the local workshops that we had in many of the labs, is inflexible institutions. So we know that many of the institutions we are dealing with are already locked into some policies. So they have been, for example, addressing water challenges through supply side infrastructure, so building dams, building canals, and that's very difficult to change, especially when the transformation is highlighting the need to intervene from the demand side. There are many reasons from that. First of all, disciplinary bias. So many of if an institution has been prepared to address supply challenges. The people who are there are trained to address supply challenges, not to address other challenges, or to intervene in a transformational way. Then there is also, I mean, this issue of know-how is compounded by the own dynamics of the institution, which sometimes are very difficult to modify. So all in all, this makes institutional dynamics inflexible and, well, difficult to change. This doesn't mean that it cannot be done. We can leverage, I mean, one option that, I mean, obviously it's not the ideal, but I mean, we have to be very much aware of it. In the literature, it's highlighted that sometimes when you have a crisis, is the best situation to start changing institutions. And we have several examples. The Australian drought, for example, the Millennium Drought, 10 years of drought, after which or during which water markets were implemented, which looked like a very challenging thing to do a few years before. So yeah, we can frame crises as accelerators of change, but ideally we should be doing that beforehand. So starting preparing ourselves ahead of the crisis, because that's something ideally we would like to avoid. And yeah, to that end, we should ensure that crisis-driven responses are assessed for long-term consequences. So we should have previous analysis, and we should engage stakeholders in designing reforms. So we should be ready for the time when this opportunity for transformation at an institutional level emerges. And then, of course, another topic that emerged and is increasingly relevant, not only in the context of Transcend, but in the context of the water resilience strategy and many other European initiatives, is finance. So as you all know, there are increasing budgetary pressures. Now I'm talking from a European perspective with this, with the rearm policy. I mean, there are lots of investment that have to be addressed and must be addressed into the future. And that's going to increase competition for a limited amount of resources. And that requires some sort of innovation, at least awareness on the possibility that the supply, the financial supply, may be constrained. Yeah, we need to be transformational also to address this barrier. There are some opportunities that we can exploit. First of all, leverage profitability to raise revenue. So some water investments are profitable and they can be used to raise revenue. Right now, we are not doing that. We can identify and showcase projects with untapped revenue potential. We can develop blended finance. So blended finance entails the combination of public and private funding, which can be profitable and not, in order to accommodate the resources in the best possible way and achieve the goal of funding as many projects, I mean, useful projects, obviously, as we can. And then obviously promote regulatory frameworks that reward efficiency and reinvest surplus revenues into resilience. Complicated, easier said than done, but still, this challenge, which was identified in the international workshop, is the reason why we are here today in this Webstival discussing finance mainly. So yeah, thank you, Jaro.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Dionisio. The Venice International Workshop was nice. We tried to visualize that with the gondola, right? And gondoliere. That's like we are on the same boat, right? We all face a similar challenges. But eventually, the workshop was held on a small island, part of this Venetian island. We had a couple of days of intense and very interesting discussion. But island, nobody is an island, right? It should be the opposite metaphor, right? The purpose of this Webstival is to share impression, share a solution to the challenges, get motivated from the others, inspired by the solution that have been tested and so on. And I think, Melissa, we have a overview of the agenda, right? Could we get that slide deck and share that? This is brilliant. So we are right now the common understanding to warm you up, right? What we are up to and what we will be doing until 1 o'clock. So for the next 1 hour and a half, please stay with us. But because we had the webinar, which we committed to open to anyone, right? So Madalena is a very busy person and very important person in European politics. So we organized this Webstival partly as the really open to everybody, right? The Webstival. And then the introduction, this is where we stand now, the common understanding. But we will we will give you some time to grab a cup of coffee in a minute, all right? So you will have to some time for break and relax after so many information and useful stimuli. And then we will continue with focus on the finance, right? And it's interesting to look at that, right? It's from almost from the end of the pathway, right? So the linear way you would start, what can I do? Identify the gaps, then identify the priorities, and eventually look into how to implement those priorities, including the finance. But that puts the finance at the very end of the value chain, and that means like first of all, there is no much energy to look into the finance, how to make it happen, and the second one, uh, sometimes the finance requires a specific analytical pathway. So this is why we sort of reverted the order, and we wanted to put the full emphasis on finance. It's not on purpose, and I will mention that after the coffee break. There are multiple opportunities for you in Europe. There are multiple opportunities for you outside of Europe. But those opportunities are now getting very tangible and very specific. So we will have a roundtable presentation on financial mechanism. We have invited, encouraged, right, representative of your stakeholder panels to share some interesting project ideas or experiences from your context. And then following this roundtable presentation, we will have a panel discussion about what can be done, what needs to be done, what we can do jointly, and throughout this discussion, please feel free to bring any question that you wanted to ask Madalena, right? And we can discuss that and try to answer collectively to that. And then there will be a explanation of what happens next in the transcend, explanation of the Cineton, the workshop that is going to take place in Alcalá, close to Madrid, and soon. And then we close by 1 o'clock of the Central European summertime. Yeah, it's 11:30. I don't want to use any more time of your break, so I recommend you to stay connected. Just switch off the microphone and the camera and take your time for a coffee break or, for anything you would like to do in the next minutes. And we will be back 11:30. Thank you very much and see you in 10 minutes.
See you soon.
Welcome back. Thank you for being back. So as already anticipated, we have invited several speakers from the different labs to share information about insight about ongoing initiatives or something that they would like to share with you in this context in order to stimulate the discussion, stimulate thinking of what can be done in your pilot area and what you can take as an inspirational example, right? So we have 6 pitch presentation, each lasting 6 minutes. And throughout those presentation, I invite you to post a question. If you have the question, we can take probably 1 or 2 shortly after the pitch presentation, but otherwise use the chat in order to post your question. We will manage that. I'll manage the time and manage the question that the speakers can provide you with. So I would start with Maria Luisa Campani, who is the head of Integrated Water Service Area Manager at Tercera in Emilia-Romagna in Italy. Maria Luisa, are you with us?
Yes. I'm here. Good morning.
Yes, hello, welcome. Thank you for accepting the invitation. You can share your screen if you have some slides. The slides are not mandatory, so feel free not to use them. And
Yes.
we are looking forward to your talk. Thank you very much. Over to you.
Okay.
We see your
Thank you.
slides not in presentation mode. Now it's perfect.
Oh, thank you. The main theme of my presentation is Emilia-Romagna experience in ecosystem services and water service. The agenda is so structured, the context, how to finance ecosystem services, and two best practice in Emilia-Romagna. The context. Water service system is structured by drinkable water system, sewage system, and wastewater treatment. And the main actors are national regulator, ARERA, who defines the rules we need to calculate fees, local regulator, ATERSIR, who implement ARERA rules, and water utility. Then, last but not least, we have users. I use the word users and not client because they cannot choose the water utility. How to finance ecosystem services? We use a water bill. ARERA method defines a specific component named ERC, environmental and resource cost, and using it, we can do a lot of things, but we have to respect two pillars. First, full recovery costs, because water utility need to recover every cost for their investments, and price cap, because users need to pay a sustainable bill. First example, in 2022, Emilia-Romagna region defines an act who have this purpose to preserve mountain water resources using nature-based solutions and focusing the activity on maintenance of rivers and woods. The process is defined in this slide, and we can see not only the actions, but also the actors. Local administration are the key of our activities. And then some numbers. Every year we realize about 100 projects for over 2 million of euros investments. And every project have effects not only on one ecosystem service, but often on more than one. Pros and cons. Pros, water resources preservation and multiple positive effects. Cons, timing, because often local administration aren't able to respect timelines, and also they haven't enough human resources to realize the projects. Then climate change effects, because we for example, in 2023, a lot of landslides canceled streets, and technicians weren't able to reach the project's area. A second step in this activity is an act of 2024, Ecosystem Service Promotion. It considered not only mountain, but also plain areas, and has the focus on mitigation of wastewater effect and on promotion of reusable water. Thank you for your attention, and step by step we can improve the activity on water services.
Thank you so much, Maria Luisa. That was really nice. I'm looking at the chat, whether there is any question in the time. Perhaps there will be one. I just, for my understanding, you mentioned you are funding about 100 projects every year with a budget of over 2 million. Is it a total budget that is split across the 100 project, or is it 100 project each with the budget of 2 millions? You are muted.
2 million are the total amount we have, and we realize very little projects, but they have a great effect on local communities.
Brilliant. And can you give us some examples of those projects, what they can be, right? Is it thinning in the forest, or is it reforestation of certain areas, or what kind of intervention?
Some activities are of reforestation. Sometimes we do river maintenance. It's a little thing, normal thing, but it's essential for us. Or we restore springs. We need them.
Yeah. Fantastic. And I will ask all the presenters one question, and this is a very practical question. So if you had the chance to get 1 million grant, right, upfront now, right, tomorrow, you apply for it, would you know how to invest that?
Yes, because local administration knows their territories, and they have always ideas. Our activities are so small and so ordinary that we can do in a little time.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Maria Luisa. So there's no immediate question. We will have time for question afterwards. So thank you very much. I would turn to our second panelist, and that's Nazim Abu Hamad, who is the head of Water Resources Department of Litani Basin Authority. Now, Nazim, are you with us? Nazim, you are muted.
It's okay.
Yes,
Good morning,
welcome.
and
Good morning.
thank you for having me. I'm Nasim Abu Hamad from Litani River Authority, and I will be presenting 2-3 slides concerning Litani River Authority and Litani River Basin. Share screen. Just one moment, please.
No problem. Take your time. In the meantime, I remind everybody to post your question, comments, or any reflection in the chat that populates basically the set of our discussion, and provides interesting points for others to reflect on.
It's okay. I will maybe I can't now. I have a problem in sharing my screen. I will speak my notes.
Yeah. Perhaps
Sure.
Melissa, do we have the slides? Shall
Yeah.
we share the screen instead of Nassim?
No, we don't have the slides in advance,
Okay.
so I'll just turn it to Nassim. Thank you.
Okay, so Nassim, please go on with your speaking notes.
So, talking about financial mechanism for resilient water management, we have as you know, we have a serious drought in Lebanon, and maybe it's the worst drought since we started record in Litani River Authority. I'm talking about 60 years. This is the worst year ever from 60 years. We have an increased water demand for irrigation, and situation is not good. I can give you some numbers. We have an inflow. The inflow for the Litani, for the Karaun Lake. This is a main lake on Litani River, and it's the biggest lake in Lebanon. This year we have an inflow of 45 million cubic meter. Usually the average is 350 million cubic meters. So it's about the 1/8 of the amount of water we are receiving this year. Currently on the Karaun Lake, we have 50 million cubic meter. The capacity, total capacity of this lake is 220 million cubic meter. So we just have 50 million cubic meter this year. Now, today. As a consequence of this water shortage, we had to stop all our hydropower plants, because as a authority we are producing electricity from 3 hydropower plants. These hydropower plants give around 10% of national needs in electricity. So all these hydropower plants are stopped now. And also we have a problem on irrigation schemes. Also, we are managing large irrigation schemes in the Bekaa and South Lebanon. Also, we are facing problems there. So what was our reaction to all this? First of all, we kept the tariff, the irrigation tariff. We had to keep it because we cannot put more pressure on farmers, especially on the current situation. So we kept the low tariff, and the tariff on irrigation water is less than the operation and maintenance cost. It's still less. So usually we are compensating this from the money that comes from the hydropower plants. But this year, as I said, we don't have money from these plants. Another innovation we took last year and this year is that we entered in a partnership with NGOs and donors, external donors, in order to a little bit to balance the deficit. I might give an example for this. We have built a very nice nursery in the region of Bekaa, near our centers, and this nursery is producing now around 5 million seedling per year. All this is to support the farmer and to lower the cost of the farmer. It was very successful experience. Another source of financing is to we had a agreement with donors, especially, and loans, especially with USAID and World Bank. From the World Bank, we took this year $25 million. $25 million for our hydropower plant, because these plants are running from 60 years, and we had to update and upgrade, rehabilitate these hydropower plants. So we entered in partnership with the World Bank. Also, we are opting for solar energies in almost all our pumping facilities, especially on irrigation projects. And for this also, we are lots of entities are helping us, especially as I said, USAID. Now they are temporarily stopped, but hopefully they will come back. We are reducing. We have several projects to reduce the losses on the system, on the infrastructure, especially on the dam, the Karaun Dam. The Karaun Dam is, as I said, for the Lake Karaun. we had lots of water losses, and now we are ongoing project. We have an ongoing project to minimize the leakage. And also we are working on the capacity building to rehabilitate the capacities of our staff. In terms of payment for the ecosystem services, we have had illegal action. We are having illegal action against all the pollutants, especially the industrial pollutant. The industries that are polluting Litani River. We have sued these industrial pollutant, and they are now paying money for us directly to compensate the pollution, of course, through the legal system. And they are, in some places, they are rehabilitating the ecosystem of the river as a fine for the pollution they have made. As a conclusion, I might say that in face of the low inflow of the water and the hydroelectric shutdown we had, the financial innovation is essential, and the future for Lebanon water security also relies on creative financing. I thank you for your time and your attention, and I am ready to answer any question.
Thank you so much, Nassim. That was really nice. Let's say you are going through extreme drought, the
Yes.
most important over the 60 years, and you also need to balance the demand of water. You are unable to increase the irrigation tariffs to pay for the increased operational cost. This is all, a dear situation, and I'm sorry to hear also about the US aid stopping the financial support. Probably that's not going to change in the near future, but we hope for the best, and we hope that there will be other sources of funding that you will have. The same question as before: if a donor offered you $1 million US dollars, would you be able immediately to deploy that? Would you know what to use it for?
For $1 million, I will use it first. We have an irrigation scheme in the south, which is which is an open channel system. It's an old irrigation scheme built at the time of the French mandate here. This scheme need to be rehabilitated, especially the main canal. We have a main canal, and we have lots of leakage on the main canal. I will deploy this $1 million from one side to minimize the leakage, to rehabilitate the main canal, and to also to put more solar panels on the main pumping station, which is feeding this canal.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Nassim. We will get back to you after the end of the round. Then I would like to invite Monika Supekova from the Department of Water Planning Management of the Slovak Water Enterprise. Monika, are you with us?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Brilliant. Yes.
I don't know how my video will work, but so I do not have prepared any presentation. But
okay, that's fine. Yeah.
I would like to say something about our financial mechanism. Sorry, I will close the door. About our more or less national financial mechanisms, which can be used to finance some adaptation or mitigation measures, but mainly adaptation measures, and then some brand new information about our national adaptation strategy, which is under update right now. if I could say, in Slovakia, the most focused is put on the financial mechanisms which are financing the realization, so-called realization measures. I think we are missing some system which is focused to solve some systematic problems. Update of our national adaptation strategy is trying to focus on all these missing fields, and the last adaptation strategy was produced in the year 2018, and it has its action plan, which is still valid until 2027. The new adaptation strategy is divided into clusters, and these are focused on few sectors where we are trying to solve and define the problems which is Slovakia dealing with. These clusters are economy, then safety, then it is cities and urban planning, then some cross-cutting issues. Each of these clusters has some sectors, for example, agriculture, biodiversity, forestry, geology, hydrological regime, economy, of course, energetics, financing, tourism, civil protection and risk management, health protection, information and communication technologies, cultural heritage, urban planning, or spatial planning, including not only urban areas, industry, infrastructure, and buildings. Of course, science and research is one of the fields, and awareness raising and education of every public. Then also good governance and transnational regional cooperation. Our adaptation strategies is defining also some finance instruments. As I already said, in Slovakia, we are mostly focused on or using financing mechanisms which are financed by European Commission, or then by other countries like Norway or Swiss, or some other transnational programs like LIFE or Horizon. There are very tooless national financial mechanisms which can be used. One of them is so-called EnviroFund. I forgot to mention that I will focus only on mechanisms which are relevant for water field, water management. This is my scope, my orientation. Of course, adaptation and mitigation is a must in each strategic documents, like, for example, is water plan, which is implementing water framework directive, or like is flood risk management plan, which is implementing flood directive, or any programs or action plans which are implementing habitat or nature protection directives. What we can say that data and knowledge base is very weak, and we have to work on that. So it is very hard to produce any analyses which are data-based. We have climate change scenarios, but we are very weak in the assessing the impacts or expectations in 10, 20, 30 year cycles, which are reflecting these directives like this water plan or flood risk management plan. So what is necessary is to focus on combining these governance bodies with academic sector, which will focus on development and assessing these impacts. This is very necessary. Our ministries and our state organizations are very theoretical, and we are not combined with praxis, and absolutely not with scientific knowledges. So this is very weak. This is very weak field in Slovakia. What is very good that our municipalities and cities or villages are starting 2-3 years ago producing their own adaptation strategies and plans, and to get money to realize some adaptation measures, there is a condition that they have to produce this adaptation strategy firstly. So they have to produce or make some analysis of the territory, of their needs, and only after that they can get money to realize the measures. It doesn't matter whether these are some measures focused on education improvement, or whether these will be some nature water retention measures. It doesn't matter. So now I will mention something about our national financial mechanism. It is called EnviroFund. EnviroFund has quite a lot of money, which are coming from fees and payments, for example, gathered from groundwater abstractions or surface water abstractions. What is not good is that mostly industry is paying these fees, but for example, agriculture is not paying such a fees for using the groundwater or surface water, or these fees are really low. So then it is not possible to make sufficient database amount of money. Takže, in this EnviroFund, then there are defined so-called specifications, which are focused, for example, on water, on wastewater treatment, or rain canalizations building. They are focused also on nature protection, but also on education and environmental awareness raising. What is pity is that this fund is mostly getting money to municipalities or to some schools, but not to our organizations, like, for example, Slovak Water Management Enterprise or Slovak Environmental Agency, which also are able to use the money, but in most of cases, or for example, in the case of Slovak Water Management Enterprise, we never get any money from this fund to realize some measure or project. The other mechanisms financial are funded by European Commission. It is Program Slovensko, which is operational fund for days 21-27. And here are a lot of priorities and themes which can be funded. They are focused on nature protection, on water-dependent habitats, CO2 sequestration or reduction. They are supporting circular economy, also education. If I can mention, we have here opened for priority areas. For example, for projects which are oriented on water retention, there is around 10 million dedicated. For flood protection projects of grey infrastructure, also 10 million. For flood protection projects with nature water retention measures, components, or oriented on water retention, also 10 million. Nature protection projects which are focused on realization of hydromorphological measures or revitalization measures, which have some adaptation component inside. There is 12 million dedicated. It seems to be quite enough, but for example, these grey flood protection projects, for this amount, there are only 3 projects. So these are bigger projects which will protect some bigger cities. Then we are using also Norway grants. This is quite very successful funding mechanism. Also we, Slovak Water Management Enterprise, also Slovak Environmental Agency, municipalities have used this money. 2024, there have ended many of projects dedicated or oriented on education, awareness raising, also wetlands protection. There have been 3 realization projects on Klatovské rameno, Krčava, Žitavský Luh, and Dunaj River, where we have realized measures to improve status of wetlands, which are degraded due to climate change. but also small adaptation projects are funded, like rain gardens or these parking places or small water retention measures can be financed. We hope that also in the new program period from Norwegian grants, they will be oriented on water biotopes. Then, of course, resilience and recovery plan, we can say that it was quite good divided. There are many areas which can be used for financing our projects. It is very oriented on green economy. We have there 5 components. One of them is component adaptation to climate change. There is quite big allocation, around 150 million euros. You know, probably as everywhere in Europe, recovery and resilience plans are not very good used. Not used. Japanese. Sorry, I will find the word. Grown. But we hope we will use it. For example, Slovak Water Management Enterprise have realized around 30 projects. These are rather smaller projects, also oriented on water-dependent biotopes or wetlands. And of course, we cannot miss financial mechanisms like LIFE or Horizon. LIFE is more oriented in Slovakia also on realization projects, but sometimes there are also some scientific projects which are focused mainly on proposal of some rules how to implement some methodological documents, like we have a national methodology on revitalization, and there is also ongoing a project Living Rivers, which is trying in one of his components to propose such a methodology, to propose such steps on implementation of this methodology. Then in Horizon, we have been also part of the international consortia, which was implementing framework project. There's some tools to propose most efficient nature water retention measures, or how calculate costs for natural water retention measures have been developed. And also we are a part of many Interreg projects like Flood Bati or Flood Uš on the east of Slovakia. These are mainly smaller, also realization projects where some practical measures in the field are realized.
Thank you very much, Monica. We really need to move on. Thank you for the nice overview. So we appreciate your remarks, your notes. We understand that there is the science link and innovation link could be reinforced, although you have the capability to connect to the science innovation at the European level. And we have also taken note of the different ongoing activities and the funding. Brilliant overview. Thank you very much. I would like to move to Davide Rondini from the Land Reclamation Board, Renana. Davide, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah. So over to you for a 6-minute overview about the funding and the initiatives that you have in place.
Okay. I hope you see my presentation.
Yes, we do.
Okay. Thank you. Good morning to everyone. I'm Davide Rondini. I work for the Bonifica Renana Land Reclamation Authority in Italy, inside the Reno Basin. So in this short presentation, I want to talk about the Acqua Virtuosa project. First of all, Acqua Virtuosa can be literally translated in virtuous water. Okay, Virtuosa, literally, yes, it's translated in virtuous, but it also comprehend the meaning of sustainable and responsible. So this project, that it's at least 10 years old, started with the intention to create a channel of dialogue with local farmers. So the main part of this project is based on interview with local farmers that more or less take place at the end of winter, at the beginning of spring of every year, in which interviews local farmers tells to us what are the area that they want to irrigate and which crops, and other further information. This helps us to have a more rationalized water distribution and more sustainable use of water by farmers. This is more or less the main product of those interviews. So there's a database with all the irrigated areas that we know previously the irrigation time by those interviews. As you can see, every year we ask what they want to irrigate to around 1,000 agricultural to irrigation farm. This always it's recorded in our database and continuously editable by communication by local farmers if they want to change something that already told to us. Okay, I already told you that this helps us with the communication to local farmers. We have an internal call center for every type of communication related to irrigation by farmers. And because during the interviews we ask what cell phone number have on the farmer, we can send to them SMS messages for every type of communication, like ordinary or extraordinary maintenance and consequently service interruptions for irrigation. Environmental issues, this is very important because we can easily and quickly communicate to them if there's a water pollution, for example, and to avoid irrigation for farmers that are near the polluted site. And then I want to talk about the irrigation tariff, more or less the main goal of my work here in the Land Reclamation Authority. Okay, in 2016, we had the application of the new classification plan of benefits. The classification plan is more or less a text, in which indicated the way to calculated every single tariff of the Land Reclamation Authority. Now I want to focus only on the irrigation tariff. There are others, but I don't want to talk here in this event. Before this application of the new classification plan, the irrigation tariff was a single part tariff. So that means that the tariff was calculated only on the cadastral potentially irrigable surfaces of every single property. This leads to a system that was not totally equity. For example, two different farms with the same surface, in the same area, one totally non-irrigated and the other with for example, orchards or horticulture cultivation that request a lot of water, before 2016 paid the same irrigation tariff, the exact irrigation tariff. So with the application of the new classification plan, we decided to goes to a tariff with that leads to a greater contribution quality. So a two-tariff tariff, a fixed charge that it's calculated in a similar way that the old single part tariff, and a variable charge that it's related to the water consumption of every single property. Now I want to focus especially on this variable component of the irrigation tariffs. This is the equation that leads to the determination of the tariff. So I don't want to explain every single index, but I want to focus only on a few of them. The IMI, Irrigation Method Index, for example. This is an index based on the efficiency of the irrigation methods used by the farmer. So this index allowed us to answer low tariffs for farmers who use high efficiency irrigation methods like drip irrigation, micro irrigation, sprinkler methods, and so on. And at the beginning of the formula, we have the ICC. In Italian is Indice di classe di consumo, in English Water Consumption Class Index. Okay, this is important because we decided to do not base this tariff on the measured cubic meters outtake of every single farm, because it was really expensive to provide more than 1,000 measurements. That needs obviously maintenance. So we decided to base these tariffs on an average irrigation water requirement. This is calculated over 15 or 20 years, now I don't remember precisely, of data or data that we have about the average irrigation water requirement of every year of every single crop irrigated in our territory. Or if we don't have that, we found them on scientific papers. Decide to use this index lead us to a simple management. We decided to check on small study areas, and we found that the amount of water calculated was accurate, or at least comparable to what we derived on this, every single canal, and as already told, I reduced the costs. And so that's all, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Davide. That was really nice. A practical experience about how to structure the irrigation water tariff. We would be, very interested to learn more. If you have some written experiences or written report of how that works and how it has been perceived, that would be really nice also for the others to learn. For the matter of the time, I would move to our next speaker, and that's Dinesh Kumar, who is the Executive Director from the Institute for Resource Analysis and Policy. May I check whether we have... Yes, welcome,
Can you see the
Dinesh.
slide, Yaro?
Yeah, we see the slide.
Okay.
They are not in full presentation mode. You might switch the view, but as you wish. Right.
Is it on the presentation mode now?
It's not, but you might also use it in this
It's
way.
okay now?
Yeah, now it's perfect. Right.
Yes. So my topic, without wasting time, Yaro, fiscal instruments for water resource management in Mahanadi River Basin under extreme climate conditions. So I'll be very quick, and I have 5 slides, and I would like to finish it in 6 to 7 minutes. So the basic context is this: surface water is a major source of water for all needs in the basin: irrigation, manufacturing, thermal power, and municipal water supply. Well irrigation in the basin is now growing, even in canal command areas, especially in lower basin areas in Odisha. Rural water supply is heavily dependent on groundwater through bore wells and tube wells. Seasonal depletion of groundwater is a problem in the basin, emerging problem. The flows in the basin are highly variable, very little, very high flows during wet years and very low flows during dry years. Competition for water and conflicts occur between sectors during dry years and between 2 riparian states, that is Chhattisgarh and Odisha, during the lean season. So there's a lot of competition intersectoral and also between states. Water demand management is a key to resolving these conflicts, but very little attention has been paid to this theme of water demand management. Now, rationale for using fiscal instruments. Currently, pricing of surface water in the basin is done only for manufacturing sector. There is no measurement. So for the rest of the sectors, there is no pricing based on measurement. So there is no incentive to use water efficiently in other sectors. I don't know what's okay. Right to use groundwater are attached to land ownership rights, and there is no resource fee or tax for groundwater. You can pump as much water as the system, the aquifer permits you to do. Electricity used for groundwater pumping in agriculture is not charged on the basis of consumption, and there is no metering of agro wells in any of the two states. So there is no marginal cost of using canal water for irrigation, and there is no marginal cost of agricultural groundwater pumping. So there is low physical and economic efficiency of water use in the basin. Industrial water use is very high in the basin. It's the second largest after agriculture, and is highly efficient from the economic point of view. So the industrial use, manufacturing sector produces more cash or more dollars for every unit of water consumed as compared to agriculture and others, of course, agriculture. Modes of pricing surface water that we need to promote. One is differential pricing of water with very high unit prices for industrial and subsidized prices for agriculture and domestic sectors is necessary to ensure, but it can ensure only economic efficiency. You need to have differential prices. You cannot charge same price that you charge for industries to agriculture. But then whether that alone will be sufficient, but this is sufficient only to ensure, this is not sufficient to ensure equity in allocation across sectors and sustainability goals. Volumetric allocation of the basin's water resources across sectors based on considerations of basic survival and food security and livelihoods is a condition before we introduce pricing of water in different sectors. So we need to first allocate water at the aggregate level across sectors, and then we can do pricing, efficient pricing for different sectors. The total allocation should be the basin yield minus the water for environment. The basin yield, of course, can consider the surface water, the flows, the runoff, and the groundwater, the dynamic groundwater resources that you have in every year, minus the water for environment. This can keep changing from year to year depending on the flows. So this is not, the allocation is not going to be constant or static. So it's going to be very, very dynamic depending on the basin, the regeneration that is happening in the basin. Now, coming to groundwater allocation pricing, since wells are under the control of the individual farmers, groundwater allocation can be affected only through inducing limits to withdrawal by the farmers. We have to induce limits, whereas in the case of surface water, we can do physical allocation. That's not possible for groundwater. This can be done through rationing of energy supplied for pumping groundwater, fixed on the basis of the sustainable yield of the aquifer and the amount of electricity required to pump a unit volume of groundwater. So this is going to be extremely complicated. Energy quota for individual farmers can be fixed on the basis of land holding, farm, family size, and rationing of draft at the individual farmer level will have to be done through prepaid energy meters with the pro rata pricing. So this way, not only the total withdrawal of groundwater can be limited, but the farmers are confronted with the marginal cost of pumping groundwater. So they have to pay for every unit of electricity use, which means they have to pay for every unit of water they are pumping. This will ensure efficiency as farmers allocate the pumped water for economically efficient crop. This is what the empirical studies across the country have shown. Now, criteria for fixing water and energy prices. The average price for water should consider the long-term marginal costs that include the depletion costs, resource depletion costs, the resource degradation costs, especially when you're dealing with sectors like industry and urban use. There is a lot of pollution of the water, freshwater bodies that's happening. So you have to consider the resource degradation costs also, plus the cost of production and supply of water. Currently, we are only talking about the cost of production and supply of water. We are not talking about the resource cost. The pricing of water for economic production functions can be guided by the average values in its various uses, whether it is industry, agriculture, livestock use, and then domestic, of course, it's a social values. While at the aggregate level, this should help recover the full cost. Hence, there will be a need for cross-subsidization with higher unit charges for industries, which is actually what is happening in the currently. The price of groundwater, therefore, has to be less than that of surface water for the same end use, as cost of production and supply is currently borne by the farmers for the former, for the case of groundwater. Electricity prices, the unit charges should consider the pumping depths, because at higher pumping depths, the farmers are going to invest more energy, use more energy for pumping every unit of water. Affordability will be an additional concern for water use for domestic and municipal supply. Hence, targeted subsidies and use of incremental block tariff will be essential. The price of water will then be higher during dry years and lower during wet years. as the resource costs and resource degradation costs are going to be higher in dry years and vice versa. I think I am through. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dinesh. That was really nice. Seeing the energy price control as the proxy for the water pumping and access in absence of any other governance mechanism. That was really nice and interesting example. Thank you so much. And you know, I very much appreciate that you mentioned that the resource cost and environmental cost are absolutely important and need to be included in the tariffs. Last panelist is Stella Mauraki from the Regional Administration of Crete. Stella, are you with us?
Correct.
Yes, hi.
Hello to
Hi.
everyone.
Good to see you.
Let me share. Me too. And my presentation is. Now it's okay for you? You can hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. We see the slide, but not in the presentation mode. So we see the slide deck, right? Not the full screen presentation. But you can easily just remember to move between the slides if you use that view.
Probably I will do that.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Don't lose.
This is always the confusing part of it, right? How to turn it to full presentation. Yeah, just put it as you did before, and that's perfectly fine. Yeah. Yeah, we see the slides.
Okay, thank you. I'm Salma Braki and took part in the TRANSCEND project, as all of you, at the Tibaki Living Lab in Greece. Yeah, I will tell you a few words, I promise, about Tibaki Basin. It's located in Europe, on the island of Crete in Greece.
Sorry, Stella, you would need to click on the slide on the next slide because we still see the cover.
In my
so
now?
What you are sharing is all the slide deck, right? And we only see the first one, right? Yeah, now you are the next one. Yeah.
And here I am. Now you see the second?
Yeah, we see the second. Yes.
We have 5 river water bodies, 6 ground bodies, and dam of Aneromeni at the Tibaki study area. And the main water use in the Tibaki Basin is irrigation. It's around 95%. And the other uses are wild urban and tourism, livestock. So this highlights how critical water management is for agriculture. So far, we have the 2 living labs have been carried out. The first in September 2023, and the second on February 2025. The participants include farmers, municipal representatives, environmentalists, and decision makers. And the 2 living labs confirm that our region faces serious challenges as the recurring droughts, high agricultural water demand, and significant losses in the network. This makes the implementation of a new policy. So we agree to several innovative policies such as deficit irrigation during dry years, even with the reduced revenues, crop changes to less water demanding species as avocado, figs, aloe, and olives, infrastructure projects as reservoirs, old dams, aquifer recharge, upgrading wastewater treatments allowed to reuse, and tiered water pricing and stricter user control to avoid water overconsumption. But all these policies and need support from financial mechanisms. So we have 4 of them, but the first one is tiered water pricing, where we have lower cost for basic needs, much higher for overuse. Increase water pricing is mainly managed by local land reclamation organizations as TOEV, GOEV, and municipalities. Some local organizations of TOEV already apply tiered pricing schemes where farmers pay lower rates for basic water quota and higher rates for overuse. Implementation varies by organization, as there is no unified national system. And the aim is to encourage water saving and efficient use. The second is payment of ecosystem services, PPs, which compensate farmers for reducing production or changing crops. There is no official national pay system in Greece yet. However, some measures under the CAP, the Common Agricultural Policy, act indirectly as PES, since farmers receive subsidies from practice that protects soil, water, and biodiversity. The third is water banks, where create a pool of water rights that can trade to balance supply during droughts. There is no official water banking system established in Greece, and water resources are managed through permits for groundwater or surface water abstraction and through river basin management plans. Although there are discussions about introducing more flexible mechanisms, but water rights trading or banking is not currently practiced. And finally, we have co-financing infrastructure where we have public-private partnerships or cooperatives to invest in reservoirs and wastewater upgrades. Greece often relies on European funding programs as NSRF, Recover Fund, rural development programs for water infrastructure projects. Frequently, no co-funding is required from local organizations or cooperatives to cover part of the cost. There are cases of cooperation between municipalities, farmers, cooperatives, and private actors for irrigation or wastewater reuse projects. This is all I have to say about the mechanism in Tibaki Living Lab. In conclusion, PES and water banks are not implemented in Greece, while tiered water pricing and co-financing infrastructure are already placed. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Stella. That was really nice. A nice overview about the difficulties and the opportunities you might have, also connected to Magdalena's talk with the nature restoration credits, biodiversity credits, and so on. At this stage, I would like to invite Dionisio to join us on the floor. Dionisio, or yes, so, hi, Diony. So it was an interesting overview, and basically, we are running into all the type of challenges that you have mentioned, also in the common ground in the introduction. So there are interesting examples, like to avoid certain policy gridlocks or difficult governance, deeply rooted systems that cannot be changed, like in India, right? The energy prices. There are interesting examples from Italy about the split tariff for irrigation since 2016, perhaps a volumetric pricing. I suspect that the percentage of the volumetric price on the rate is relatively low. It might be 20-30%, not more. So that's still the prevailing fix. But there are a number of the same issues that you have summarized as the challenges in chat. What is your take on that? How do you make sense of it? Very briefly, right? What is your impression?
No, thank you, Yaro. It was I think that it substantiated very very well the problem that we have been highlighting on funding, financial aspects of transformation and adaptation, but not only. So this is an issue that we keep dragging from conventional water policy, and will likely emerge again when we do transformation and adaptation, and it's where the money is coming from. We have a transformation which is not maybe for the better in terms of in the world of finance right now. There is much more competition for the resource. And my taking from the presentations is that this is a problem that is going to affect all of our living labs and will transcend beyond them. We have seen examples, for example, from Nassim from Lebanon. They were focusing, when they were mentioning about the financial products that they are using, they were highlighting the use of grants also in Slovakia. That was the case. So they were highlighting grants, the relevance of grants coming from the European Commission, from the World Bank, from investors outside of the country. But still, the problem was there about how to create returns from the investments and cost recovery so that these grants can continue into the future without these resources. This is similar in other European countries. In Italy and in Spain, we had our first share of cohesion funding a few years ago. Now, for example, in countries like Portugal, grants are also becoming they are the major source of funding for many of these investments. But the key problems are the same. The key problems are that there is a lack of profitability from these investments, not because they are not profitable. So maybe I should be careful with my wording. Some of these investments, many of them are profitable, so they deliver returns that exceed the cost, but we are not making them profitable for the investors, right? So the money is put into the box and then there's nothing coming out. So there is an imbalance, I would say, sharing of the benefits and costs between investors and users. And this is a problem that will that is going to threaten the sustainability of the investments into the future, especially if these grants are taken out of the equation, which is something that we cannot take for granted, that these grants will be there forever. So how do we make it sustainable is a key aspect of the water resilience strategy and should be a key concern for all of us.
And this is exactly what we have learned also from the Lebanese pilot, right? The US aid contribution has been stopped. So there are certain the priorities in European Union might change as well, right? So the new funding might be diverted to more urgent priorities and so on. But related to that, and I alluded to it, the European Commission is preparing a new cascading fund scheme for the mission adaptation, but these sort of transformative adaptation schemes, and they are putting on the table something like up to 1 million per region. So we have some experience from the past. There have been roughly 200,000 euros for improved climate risk assessment. The regions could have applied for it and could improve the understanding. They got also 200,000 euros for improved adaptation planning. But now the next scheme is probably, well, it's being developed. It's not yet published, but will cover the funding. And for the funding, the European Commission is considering much more seed money, right? Up to 1 million euros that might be handed over to Crete, for example, if you have good ideas to start using it. But that will require that there is a return on investment, let's say 1 to 10, right? So you receive 1 million in grant, and you need to demonstrate that the return for you, for the society, will be at least 10 times as much. Do you think pilots are ready to use that opportunity? And which of the pilots you would pick up as the most, suitable candidate for this?
That's a very difficult question. No, thank you. I think that they are more than ready to come up with returns of 1 to 10. So that's something that, especially in some of the basins where there is still a lot of room for developing some key sectors, for example, data centers, water use, or I don't know, green hydrogen. These are sectors in which you can generate a return that, significantly exceed the investment. But the key issue is still there. So it depends on how you manage these resources, whether you will be able to sustain the investment in the long run, because you can create a 1 to 10 return investment, but it's a completely unbalanced, and it goes entirely to the private sector. So that means that you will not raise the revenue that you need to keep the ball rolling and continue maybe with the cascading investments. So after you generate this return, you raise the necessary resources to invest somewhere else and create this cascade effect. Because, I mean, to create a cascade effect, you need to somehow get some ownership on the resources that you are generating. Otherwise, they are going somewhere else that maybe you don't want to, or maybe it's away from the water sector. But I think that this is one of the key issues. So profitability probably is not a major problem in our labs, because there are many investments and we have many transformational ideas that can be profitable. I think that the challenge that also emerged in Venice is how to create institutional arrangements and financial arrangements that make them sustainable, and this investment sustainable in the longer run. And this is where I think that the transformation is still lacking. And yeah, I mean, we had very good ideas. You mentioned that before, Jaro, sorry, the Italian lab, and this is a very good example of how you can start creating with this new tariff, volumetric plus fixed tariff components. You can start generating some additional revenue on top of what you were generating before. So this is the sort of transformations that can help us create sustainability beyond profitability.
Brilliant. But I say one question is whether there is a meaningful investment of the seed money and whether there will be a return on investment that is required. The other question is how quickly this might be deployed, because the scheme, if it's implemented, the European Commission will ask for connection to the banks that are they are willing to pre-finance that. It will require something that is quickly put on table. And many of the pilots are still struggling with enabling conditions, right? Which are necessary in order to prepare for the scaling up of the investments. So to sort out the balance of to redistribute the allocation permit, to establish the monitoring schemes and whatever. So there are a number of interesting preconditions. And this is a question basically to all our panelists or all other partners. If you are asked to put on table relatively quickly an investment project that is feasible, can be implemented within the time frame of 3 to 4 years, for which you can use 1 million of the seed money, and you have to demonstrate 10 millions. Would you be ready to do that, right? And is it something that is in your reach, or will you be running into the usual difficulties of not having the regulatory instruments, the analytical instruments ready for this type of change?
Yeah, that was, Jaro, for an open question to the panel.
To you, to panel, and to anyone.
Yeah, I can start maybe very quickly, and then maybe Dines wants to intervene. I mean, he has been active in the chat right now. Or I don't know, Camila, other stakeholders who are writing right now in the chat. But I mean, very quickly, we have, as you know, in Transcend, we have an inspiration living lab, which is continuing the work that we did in Talanoa as well, in central Spain, in Castilla and León. And we have been facing these issues. And what we found is that they were talking about blended finance, so the possibility of moving some of the investments from, towards private resources. I mean, to leverage private resources for some of the investments. That was working reasonably. I mean, that was very well welcomed by some of the private institutions that could leverage that money. But they were asking all of them for key institutional reforms, and especially reforms in the cost recovery aspects that were being implemented. So this is a major barrier that we are facing right now, at least in this area in central Spain, to mobilize some of these resources. They were saying, okay, it's fine for us to invest here, but you need to make sure that if we invest the money, there will be some return also for us in there, because right now, just by recovering the financial cost is not sufficient for us. So yeah, there were some demands for institutional reform before they could be this beyond, because in Spain here, I mean, as many other places in Southern Europe, we relied on grants mostly for these investments. This is about to be over. There is a new wave of investment that probably is going to be mobilized soon with these new water uses, data centers, and green hydrogen, especially in our region, Castilla and Leon, but there are other possibilities. And yeah, the private sector is demanding some reforms. And then, which is the follow-up question, is whether after these reforms, we want to hand over these investments to the private sector, because once you have done the reforms to make them profitable, the follow-up questions is whether you want the private sector to take over or maybe continue with the public model and make it more profitable so that the returns accrue to the public revenue. But that's a different story. I guess the first step is this institutional reform.
Yeah, would it make sense for you, right, to include a short exercise across the pilot throughout the Synaton? So, hypothetical investment, there is a possibility to apply for a seed money of 1 million, let's say, but the project needs to be make available within 6 months, right? In form of application, implemented within the time frame of 4 years, and needs to demonstrate 10 million of return on investment. So do you think we can somehow identify some volunteer regions that would like to do that pilots and incorporate that with the Synaton plan?
I think that would be very much feasible, especially after what we are producing for this Synaton that is going to take place between October and December in the different labs, where we are talking about returns. So we are talking about the returns specifically, and we can say, okay, these returns are 10-1 or 5-1 or whatever. We can identify that. Then the follow-up step will be who funds that. Because yeah, we have lots of ideas and lots of transformational ideas, but then the problem as usual is how to implement them and who is going to put the money on the table for that. So I guess that we have the information to do the assessment you were proposing, Jaro, for in the next Senaton. Like, okay, now we know that we have started to identify promising transformational policies. Now let's discuss the financial aspects of this transformation.
But the interesting fact is also from Magdalena presentation, she covered the Europe, but there are other funds and other mechanisms how to finance similar project elsewhere. But she mentioned a number of things, right? The Water Resilience Fund, the Innovator Incubator, and so on. I don't think it's the source of the money that is lacking. She explicitly mentioned there is the too small project, too fragmented. The investors are looking for something bigger, right? And we are still speaking about the Italian case of 2 million per year, 100 project. There are small investments into relatively marginal improvements. So how to shall we think about how to make it big, ambitious, how to make it radical, how to turn the side and deliver something at scale in terms of impact?
Yeah, absolutely agree. Yeah. I think it's one of the key problems that have been highlighted also by the European Investment Bank. In the InvestEU program, I think that water is, I mean, the share of water investments is very marginal as compared to other sectors. I mean, environment overall is very small, but within environment, water is particularly small. And it has to do also with the size of the project, but that's a limitation that we have from the European Investment Bank because of the size of the projects that they are requesting for being funded, and many of the water projects are small. And one of the ideas they are discussing is to merge them, so to create maybe at the national level some tool that can put all these projects in the same portfolio, in a similar way to what we do with some financial investments. We put water projects, water investments into a single portfolio, and then we fund that portfolio. Obviously, there are pros and cons to that. But it's one instrument that is put on the table to overcome that barrier, because as you said, there is money for water that cannot be used because of that limitation, which is a major one. Yeah, I agree.
And now just a final remark on this scheme that is under preparation. It's not only meant for the public authorities, right? It might be private entity that is using that seed money of investment. that might be NGO, that might be anyone else, right? So it's interesting to start looking into that. There are multiple ways how to start investing or doing a radical change in a specific area. And it might be triggered not necessarily by the public organization. It might also be the private sector.
Yeah,
But
totally.
because of the time, I hand over to you also to explain what Transcend is going to do next. What will be the Cineton workshop in Madrid, and perhaps also wrap up these Webstival. So over to you, Dionisio. Thank you.
Thank you, Jaro. I'm trying to share my screen now. Hope it works.
It does.
Great. So yeah, I mean, first of all, a big thanks to all of you who have been following this Webstival until the very end, the hardcore transcenders, I guess. It was I think it was a very useful discussion. I was learning a lot. I mean, I've been working with all of you, the presenters across the different labs, and there were some things that I didn't know. So I mean, I'm glad to see after 2.5 years that we can still learn from each other. I wanted to wrap up by mentioning just saying a few words about what this Webstival was about and how it integrates in the whole Transcend project, and then continue by explaining what are the next steps for Transcend. So this Webstival focused on finance, and it was Jaro's idea, and I'm very grateful for that because I think it was spot on. It's something we have been missing, mainly because it's not a key part of the proposal. So we mentioned finance. There's one task on finance, but it's not one of the pillars of the project itself. But I think that as Jaro was saying in one of the meetings we had for preparing this event, there is no transformation without financial transformation, and that's something we have to be aware of. So we have to integrate slowly but surely all these transformational financial instruments into our transformational adaptation policies, or TAP, because without them we cannot be transformational. I mean, there are not resources available in many of the cases. In some cases, the resources are available but are not being used in the best way. And if we want to make our investment environmentally but also financially sustainable, we need to address this topic. And this is why we were thinking of focusing this, trying to highlight the financial aspect. Many of us are not so comfortable in this area, but we have to improve our knowledge on this topic and try to incorporate it as much as possible. And as Jaro was hinting in his last question, in the last point we discussed, it's something that we want to fully integrate into not in the next Scenaton, because we don't have much time. And as you know, these Scenatons are, almost ready, if not ready. But in the next one we're going to have over the next year, 2026, we would like to fully incorporate the financial aspect into the Scenaton and the serious game simulation. So allow me to jump from this very interesting Webstival into the next step for Transcend. As many of you know, we are now following our roadmap for Scenatons, which is the key document of Transcend right now, in which we are putting all the information we are generating towards creating actionable knowledge for the stakeholders. So the Scenatons, as you know, are the tool that we are using to engage stakeholders and scientists. So basically to create cross-fertilization across different living labs and also between the scientific community and the stakeholder community. We are doing that mainly through local workshops in which many of you are participating. This is the place where we engage the stakeholders from the 7 labs and with the scientists, or at least with the scientist products, which are the models, the monitoring, and the serious games that we have been generating. So as you know, probably you have been informed. If not, you will be informed very soon. We have a series of local stakeholders workshops. Will be the second or third local stakeholder workshop, depending on the living lab, in which we are going to deploy finally the serious games, the full-fledged serious games that are building on top of the models and monitoring efforts that we have been developing over the last 2.5 years. We have put a lot of work. We are putting a lot of work into them. And as you can see, there are many events that will follow, that will help to underpin or complement these Scenatons. So very quickly, because I don't want to take a lot more time, we have 2 events in September. The first one already happened, this Webstival, or is happening right now, this Webstival, which I think was a big success in terms of attendance and also in terms of the topics discussed, I think it was very relevant, and I was taking notes all the time because we have to be very careful to incorporate all the relevant insights generated here. But we have another one, which I would like to make you all aware of, which is the mock Stenaton. This mock Stenaton will be a consortium meeting, so it will be participated by partners of the project, some of which are stakeholders, but it won't be a stakeholder-oriented event. It's more a consortium-oriented event in which we are going to test the serious games and Stenatons that we are going to deploy in the living labs. This is going to happen in September 2025 in Madrid. Some of the partners will be here participating and playing the different serious games. And after that, we are going to validate them or not. We are going to make a few additions, make a few changes, twist here and there to make sure that they work. And after that, we are going to start deploying them between October and December 2025. This is where we are going to play the serious games / Senatons over the different living labs. So we have 7 events, 1 for each lab, in which different scientists will attend your local stakeholder workshops and will play the serious games with the stakeholders. There's different timing for some of the labs. Specifically, I'm looking at Dines now, the Mahanadi, we have this Senaton taking place later on. So we have a different event, a different mock Senaton to discuss these topics with you, and the colleagues from IRA. Then in the meanwhile, because while we are playing these Senatons over the 7 labs, we're going to have different events. In November 2025, we are going to have the international workshop, the international stakeholder workshop of the Talanoa project, co-organized with the UFM, Union for the Mediterranean. This is also a major event, which is going to be participated by some of you, not all of you, because it's a side event, it's a different project, but it's our sister project with which we have been organizing events such as the Lisbon one. Then we'll have in January the second Transcend International Stakeholder Workshop. That's going to take place in Valencia. This is the follow-up to the Venice International Stakeholder Workshop. You will be invited to participate there, and we are looking forward to having as many as you participating. Then as a follow-up, we have the February 2025, a big event, which is the UFM Ministerial. As you know, we have been partnering with the Union for the Mediterranean to have some stakeholder events. We had one in Lisbon. Then we had another one in Malta, which was participated by a few project partners, mainly Yaro, and some colleagues from a different institution who's not involved in Transcend, from the Ecosistema. And then this is going to conclude in a 2025 February event, which is going to be the UFM Ministerial. This event will be participated by the ministers of the Mediterranean countries that conform the UFM, and possibly some other ministers from other European countries, non-Mediterranean countries, but I doubt there will be ministerial representation from these countries. And in there, we'll present a policy paper jointly elaborated by Transcend and Talanoa. It's a major event that will take a stock on everything that's happening before, trying to summarize the key findings of Transcend, but also Talanoa and Aquount, other projects that are involved, and presenting it to the ministers to create impact. And there will be a key aspect of this policy document will focus on finance, but not only. I mean, it will be mainly about transformation, but with a specific focus on finance and financing the transformation adaptation. And afterwards, we'll have the second round of Senatons that will happen in June, September 2025. So that's very much ahead of us. But just to keep you informed, this is what's going on. So that's it from my side. Thank you very much for all your comments and suggestions. Please let me know if there is any comment from your side.
There is no hand raised, and there is no comment asking for clarification. There has been a good discussion in the chat. In the meantime, thank you very much for answering the question and exchanging the views on the discussed topics. We are running a little bit over the time, Dionisio. Perhaps we might need to close the Webstival because part of our guests are from the time zone, which makes them, quite, it's demanding. It's quite late in the afternoon. especially in the Asian part of our audience.
Yeah, let's wrap up. Fine from my side. Apologies for the last minute interruption.
Yeah, excellent. Then thank you very much, Dionisio. Thank you very much to all of our panelists. Thank you to our audience and the organizing team, Melissa and colleagues from ARPA Emilia Romagna. Said you have done Alice to name you. You have done an excellent job. Thank you very much for all your hard work and for interesting input. We will be in touch. There will be, as anticipated by Dionisio, another opportunity to meet in person, the second international workshop in Valencia, struggling to rebuild after the disaster of last year. And then we will have another Webstival in about 1 year, and we might have a number of webinars in meantime. So stay tuned. Thank you very much, everybody, and have a nice rest of the day, wherever you are.
Bye.